Evening all, happy Sunday. How are we all doing? How are we all doing after a weekend of boxing? I saw fuck all fights this weekend. I'm just gonna come out and say that. But I did catch Chisora Parker this morning. Oh boy. Didn't watch it live, right? I caught it back. Caught the first half this morning when I woke up. And then I had to come home. By the time I got home, I watched the rest of it. And I was like, right. So this is what, because I heard loads of people shouting robbery, this, that, and the other. I didn't even know Parker got dropped in the first round because I just was busy yesterday, last night. I didn't see anything, so I watched it, and I had a lot of people saying that they thought that Chisora won. Saw a lot of other people saying that they felt it was genuinely close, but they didn't really want to see a rematch, if you know what I mean, because it wasn't great. And yeah, it wasn't the most entertaining fight I've seen in a while. I mean, after the first round, I kind of thought, "Oh, really? Wow, what the?" I was like, after the first round, I was like, "Oh, Jesus, this might be great." And then it kind of, Chisora won the first. Literally, he won the first 4 rounds, in my opinion. He was just outward. He was just bullying Parker in there. What Parker was doing well, and this is what I noticed, was he was staying calm. He was staying relaxed. He wasn't letting Chisora overwhelm him, and he was tying Chisora up, and he was making Chisora work a lot, which really did do Parker a lot of good in the end. By the end of the fight, he was definitely coming on stronger. I see. Here's the thing. As I said, I watched the first half, the first 5 rounds this morning. Then I had to do some things. Then I had to drive home, which took a while. So it was kind of like, oh Jesus, what was like happening in the first like 5 rounds? I had to remember it. But then when I look back on it, I was like, 'cause I looked back on it before I came on. I was like, no, Chisora won those first 4 rounds definitely, and you got to include the knockdown. Parker Parker was just nicking rounds late on, but it was definitely a close fight. Like, for me, it was competitive the whole way through. It wasn't entertaining. From what I've heard, right, the card itself wasn't great. I think I saw snippets of Katie Taylor. Didn't see the Eubank fight, didn't see the Bivol fight, saw the Tennyson knockout. I did see that. I saw that because it was a first round. I actually saw that live. I tell you, I streamed that part before I had to do some stuff. Because last night, obviously, I was quite busy. Without going into too much detail, but I did see that. I did see that. I seen that, and for me, that was probably, from what I've been told, probably the real good fight on the night. The Katie Taylor Tasha Jonas fight was decent from what I seen, but apparently this was a pretty, the main event was really caught fire early on in the first round, but really wasn't much. Come the end, I felt that Chisora done enough to nick it. Personally, I thought that Chisora should have won the fight. I think the judge from Poland had it 116, 111 for Joseph Parker. I mean, what the hell was he watching? So essentially he gave Chisora 3 rounds, right? So he gave him obviously 2 points in the first round for the knockdown, which is, yeah, fine. That's grand. And then he would have given him, what, 2 more rounds? So essentially, right, I gave Chisora the first 4 or 5 rounds, right? So essentially you could say that Chisora got the first 3 rounds because he was just out working Parker, and that's it. Literally, that's it. You don't give him anything else, which is bollocks. He definitely won more rounds than just 3. That judge needs to be checked because that was crazy. That stank of, corruption, that scorecard. You see them at times in boxing where you see a genuinely close fight, and then you see, and at the end of the day, like, if you had Parker winning, I'm just, see, the robbery isn't the title, but I'm only asking the question. Do you think it's a robbery? Me personally, I didn't think it was a robbery. Personal preference, personal opinion. Joe Parker didn't win the fight. It was Chisora who won the fight. But it was definitely close and competitive. There was a few rounds, like, it really was down to what you like in a couple of them rounds. So for me, Chisora just edged it. I've got no issue if you had Parker winning the fight. It was one of them kind of fights where it really kind of came down late on in the fight to what you like. And Chisora was definitely, he was tiring late on down the stretch, but he was giving it his all on the way. Like, Chisora, for someone who has 11 losses, to still be able to push all these guys to the limit, It is quite incredible. It's quite impressive because I remember 5 years ago, straight after Joshua beat Dylan White for the British title, Eddie Hearn was talking about putting him in with Chisora. And the consensus was that's Chisora's career finished after that point because he'll get blasted out by AJ. That does actually make you wonder if AJ in 2016, this is prior to Charles Martin, had fought Chisora, how that would have went. That would have been interesting, actually, because Chisora still has loads in the tank. Listen to Buddy McGurk. Andy Lee is very quiet, so in the corner, it was quite hard to kind of hear mainly what he was coming out with. But Parker just looked the same as he always. I think that Parker is pretty much, I don't know. I really don't know. But in terms of the performance against Chisora, Alexander Usyk, in my opinion, I know he gets a lot of criticism for his performance as a heavyweight, but you have to look at what he did. Or if you want to compare him, right? Look at Dylan White. I know Dylan White stopped Chisora in the rematch, but look at the performances Dylan White put in against Chisora. Look at the performance Parker put in against Chisora and compare that to the performance Alexander Usyk put in against Chisora. It's night and day. Usyk, for my money, apart from the first few rounds, he was on top of Chisora all the way through. You know, outboxed him, hurt him in the 7th. Usyk clearly won that fight comfortably. Outboxed him, really did probably as good a job as just about, well, not Tyson Fury, obviously, but done just as good a job as anyone. So comparing him to White and Parker at heavyweight, you got to say, people say Usyk's this, he's that. He done a much better job on Chisora than Parker, a fully fledged heavyweight, former heavyweight champion. And he done a much better job than Dylan White, who was general consensus top 5 heavyweight, you know? So Usyk, a heavyweight, definitely all good. Rob, you had him winning 4 rounds. You had him winning 4 rounds in the fight, or you had him winning by 4 rounds. Canelo GGG 1 was a robbery. I don't think either of those fights were robberies, personally. And you have more of a consensus to say GGG Canelo was a robbery than Kovalev Ward, because those fights were close fights. The first fight, yeah, I'll give it to Triple G, to be honest, which is Triple G won that first fight. But Ward Kovalev, that was close. You know, I've always said I thought Ward won it, but if you Kovalev win it, that's fine. But it was not a robbery. A robbery is Helenius versus Chisora. Now, that's a robbery. Robberies are Zach Parker versus Darrell Williamson. They're robberies. You know, the judge who tried to score the fight for Jesse Hart against Joe Smith, that is when you see shenanigans going. You think it was a robbery, but not able to watch the highlights because of Sky social media thing. Yeah, Sky is... I watched the Sky Sports repeat, and I always try and get the zone. I watched the James Tennyson fight on the zone because I got that on Kraken before, you know, I had to do things. And yeah, if I watched it, I would have streamed it, and I would have watched it. I would have made sure to get the zone commentary. I think Sky have 2 shows left with Matchroom after this, so please God, that just we never have to listen to Adam Smith again. I watched the highlights of Katie Taylor, and oh my good Lord, Jesus, Adam Smith. I mean, if ever a man shouldn't commentate on women's boxing, it's Adam Smith. If you haven't seen it, how can you say it was a robbery? Well, I seen it this morning, and I don't think it was a robbery personally. Are you surprised that Joe Laws left Eddie Hearn side by MTK? No, I mean, Joe Laws is not really going to do much as a boxer. He's not. You know, he's very limited. He's just got a big fan base, so he's a ticket seller. And because he's a ticket seller, he can go from Eddie Hearn to like Lee and MTK. Is he signed with MTK as just a boxer and promoter, or are they just manage him and is he still with Matchroom? But Joe Laws is not a good fighter, but he's got a big following. So at the end of the day, they'll always do that, you know? They'll always do that because if at the end of the day, these promoters will look at someone, and it's not the right way to do it, of course, but you could be a limited fighter, but with a big fan base. You'll sell tickets, you'll get the promoter money. So they'll obviously want you to fight on their shows because they're making a profit. Whereas you could be a really, really good fighter, like that guy Kieran Smith the weekend, right? Who fought Troy Williamson. I've seen that bit of a fight. He's a good fighter, but he's just not got opportunities because he's not really a loud mouth. You know, he's a good fighter, but he's just not out there enough. So a promoter could look at him and think, yeah, you're a good fighter. You're, you know, pound for pound, you're better than Joe Laws, but he's making me money, you won't. Not the way it should be, but unfortunately, it's the way it is. So what we got on here? I'm slow on these chats today. What are your thoughts on Fitzgerald's return? Didn't see him, to be honest with you. Who should he fight next? Adam Harper, Harry Scoff before? To be honest with you, I didn't see him, to be honest with you. So I have no idea what he was looking like, to be honest. But I did see the interview he gave with IFL, and I don't know. I wouldn't rush him into a Fowler or Cheeseman fight just yet. I think that he might need. He sounds like he's been through the mill over the last year. So I think that he needs to be. I think he needs to be eased into a few more. Adam Harper or Harry Scarf will be good names just to ease him into something rather than just putting him in with Fowler or Cheeseman straight away. Fell asleep during that fight. Yeah, wasn't it? I watched it this morning when I woke up, and I was like, oof. And I did see bits of Andy Ruiz versus Areola. I was surprised from what I saw. I was surprised that Ruiz wasn't the heaviest knockdown in the world, but Areola, Jesus, Areola seemed better. Areola retired 5 years ago after he got knocked out by Wilder or stopped by Wilder. So, Jesus. Even the MVG, Michael Van Gerwen, big up to you, man. Hey, G, man, I only seen the highlights, man. Like, I really didn't do much boxing watching this weekend. I had other plans. No regrets, by the way. No regrets. No regrets. Big up the G-Man's rocks. Parker is done for. Yeah, he's definitely not going to do much at the highest level, I don't think. I think he's a good fighter, but he's just I think he's limited in certain aspects. I think he just tries to box his way. I think he needs a bit. There was a few times where I thought he actually buzzed Chisora in there, and he just didn't seem to want to step on it. That scorecard was an absolute joke. It was. Big up to Liam every time. Retiring from boxing. Big up to Lee. Who else we got? Because I'm missing a load of these chats. Apologies, peeps. Honestly, man, apologies if I'm missing a few of these chats because I spent a while talking. Big up to Joe. What's happening, G-Man? And everyone, hope all is good. I'm brilliant, as always. And big up to Nick every time. 116, 111, Chisora. I could see that. You know, I could definitely see that. Chisora, for my money, early on was winning the majority of those early rounds. You know, he was just on top of Parker. I couldn't believe he got knocked down in the first 10 seconds. I mean, when I seen that, because I knew Parker won, but I heard that it was like controversial. When I seen that, I was like, holy shit, is this going to be a good fight? And then it just kind of died after that. Lads, if you could, 42 in the building, if you could on the way in, just smash the like button. You know, we got Ainsley Harriott there, you know, as the avatar. You know, that's the kind of face he gives when he sees the like button getting smashed. You ever see that video of Ainsley Harriott where he's like marinating the meat and he's like, oh, yeah, boy. Figaro boxed like an idiot. I picked Ramos to win, but I picked him to win on points. I should have put him down to win by knockout. I picked him to win on points. I get the points for the win, but I should have put him down to win by stoppage. It is what it is. It is what it is. I predict Tennyson to get KO'd. Do you know what's funny, right? I've seen a good few people doing the same. Now, I hadn't heard of the guy Tennyson's fighting. Now, I've seen James Tennyson plenty of times, and he's very limited. He can punch, but he's very limited. Like, I've seen him get outboxed by guys at Irish level. Like, if you've ever heard of Declan Geraghty, Declan Geraghty's a big, tall, lightweight. Can't punch, but he can box a bit. And the only thing that won Tennyson that fight was his punching power and the fact that Geraghty has no chin. Literally, that's the only thing that won him the fight, because Tennyson was getting outboxed. The Declan Geraghty's Irish level. He's not even British level. And the only thing that won him that fight, because he was losing that fight, was the fact that Tennyson can punch and Geraghty has no chin. That's it. But yeah, I seen that. I watched that live. I'm sure Johnny Nelson there. I still can't get over that Johnny Nelson actually said he thinks James Tennyson could beat Tank Davis. I mean, and he's paid. Like, cast your mind, Sky Sports pay him probably in the region of 6 figures. If you ever feel useless, just think of this. Sky Sports pay Johnny Nelson in the region of 6 figures to be a boxing analyst. And he comes out with a saying that James Tennyson will knock out Gervonta Davis. And in his very next fight, gets knocked out in the first round by an unknown Mexican. That 6 figures is well spent. I'll tell you that. Would like to see that be a great little scrap, wouldn't it? That actually is a good shout. Chisora versus Areola. I would favour Del Boy. I would. Tennyson got stopped by Farmer from a body shot. Insane. Well, to be fair, right? I know Farmer's not the biggest puncher, but you don't need to be the biggest puncher to land a good body shot. You know, you'll often see like Tim Bradley, for example, stopped, and Tim Bradley's not a big puncher, was never a big puncher. He stopped Rios with body shots. So a good body shot, you don't need to be a big puncher. You don't need to be a big puncher to land a good body shot. Areola got robbed. I didn't see that fight, but Areola said, I seen the post-fight interview. I know I didn't see it, man, but I did see the post-fight interview, and Areola was pissed. He said that, okay, fair enough, maybe Ruiz deserved to win, but they only gave him like 2 rounds, which is BS. You know, because he definitely got a knockdown in the second or third, and he was having success in there. Big up to G-Man and the whole chat, man. Big up to you. Figueroa boxed like an idiot. I didn't think he'd win. He's too erratic, Figueroa. This is a guy who got done for DUI in training camp. Imagine that. He got a DUI arrest a couple of years ago. I think it was 2017. He got a DUI arrest in the middle of training camp and then pulled out of his fight. I forget who he was fighting, saying he injured his hand. But imagine that. He got imagine getting a DUI while you're in the middle of a training camp for a fight and you're a professional. Crazy. Parker won. You feel Parker won. We've got 49 in the building, right? Rather than me going on rambling, pop it in the chat who you felt won. You know, you don't have to give the scorecard. You can put your scores down if you want, but 48 in the chat. Pop it in the chat. Let me know who you felt won the fight. So as though I've given my 2 cents, I felt Chisora won it. You know, won it. Just nicked it, won it. But let me know what you guys felt won the fight. The 116, 111 scorecard for Parker was just bollocks. Had Chisora winning a close fight. Exactly. I got timed out so many times it eventually blocked. I was exposing him. Timed out. Who's Sammy UK get timed out by? Chisora is better than ever at 37. Do you know something? That's exactly right, what he says there. Chisora in his late 20s, early 30s, wasn't as good as he is now. You wonder if he had the right setup. He needed to leave Don Charles years ago. You should have left Don Charles years ago. I think the problem with Chisora is that Chisora always saw Don Charles as a bit of a father figure to him. So he always was. I think he even said that he was kind of reluctant to leave him because he saw that he was a bit of a kind of, what's the word, like father figure. So I think that's why he stayed with Don Charles as long as he did. He shouldn't have. He shouldn't have, to be honest with you, because as far as I was concerned, Don Charles was doing nothing for Dereck Chisora years back. He should have left him years ago. I prefer Parker on the back foot behind the jab. When Parker lets his hands go, he can really do good. He can really do good. If you want to see a robbery, watch Sven Ottgon versus Robin Reid. Oh, that was bad. I've seen that fight. That was bad. I felt bad for Robin Reid. Sven Ottgon, where Ottgon didn't win a round, got a wide UD, never seen anything like it before. Yeah, Sven Ottgon finished his career undefeated, but it was a weird kind of career because he literally fought nobody. You'd probably say Robin Reid is his best win. But over there in Germany, it was literally, it was weird, wasn't it? Because, I mean, Joe would know this. It was kind of like Sven Ottgon had a belt, and then there was the rest of the division, if you know what I mean. It was like he just wasn't a factor, and he was happy not to be a factor. He was just there to milk it over there in Germany. So he ended his career undefeated. But if he'd fought, oh, Jesus, I mean, like, Jesus, if he'd fought anybody, you know, at world level, he would have been beaten. And that Robin Reid fight was absolute bollocks as well. Like, I mean, the officiating for some of his fights was just bizarre. So Sven Ottgon, like, yeah, he finished his career undefeated, but he really didn't do anything other than win, like, literally. And that's not me being me. That genuine, he didn't fuck all. Did Sven Ottgon. Hearn made no appearance on Sky last night. Defo done with Sky. Yeah, the commentary was still shit, though. That has to be said. His commentary was still shit. His commentary was shit. The commentary was still shit. That's never going to change. But yeah, I didn't see much of Eddie Hearn. I saw Kellis Sauerland on Sky, but I didn't see Eddie Hearn. So we need to see how that goes. I'm sure Adam Smith is. I'm sure Adam Smith is he's still crying into his pillow. You know, Chisora will always get robbed in a close fight. You see, the Zone are launched in New Zealand. Parker is the face of boxing in New Zealand, so I'm sure if he's fighting again, it'll be in New Zealand with the Zone probably. So, you know yourself. Will Katie Taylor ever face her Antonio Tarver? She's due a loss. That's what I will say about Katie Taylor. And that's not me hating on her or anything like that. Katie Taylor, I watched the fight. I watched like a lot of the highlights of the fight back. Katie Taylor was doing good work in there. So too was Natasha Jonas. She made some mistakes in there, Katie Taylor. I think the problem with Katie Taylor, I've always said about her is that one thing I noticed about her, and I really wish they'd address this, is when she lets her combinations go, she backs up in straight lines with her hands down, her chin in the air. She's just asking to get countered. She is just asking to get countered. I think Katie Taylor throws her shots very amateurish. Like, she's got speed in them, but she's not really rotating. She's not putting much power into her shots. So if you pressure Katie Taylor, she's not got a lot to keep you off her with. So you look at like Delphine Pursoon and what Natasha Jonas did. They gave her so much trouble by just marching forward. And Katie Taylor had to reset. She was a bit uncomfortable, but Katie Taylor down the stretch was able to, you know, get her boxing back under herself. And it was a fun little fight. I mean, to be fair, from what I've seen, I obviously haven't seen Craig Richards versus Bivol. Can imagine how that went. Didn't see. I heard Eubank Morrison wasn't a great fight at all. But I enjoyed what I've seen from Katie Taylor and Natasha Jonas. That was fun. Enjoyed that. You know, there's always enjoyed. Like, people say whatever they want about women's boxing, it is enjoyable to watch. Some certain fights can be crap, but that fight, from what I seen last night in that highlights, was good. De La Hoya Sturm was a robbery. Oh yeah, Jesus, yeah, that was a bad robbery as well. Felix Sturm, his whole career, every time he stepped up, he either got robbed or someone was robbed against him. Get a judge job for boxing. I don't know if I'd ever do judging. I don't know if I do boxing judging. I'd be definitely more of an analyst than I would be a boxing judge. And he said the Parker Chisora fight was boring. Yeah, it wasn't the most exciting fight in the world. It depends really on your perception of a fight. Like, for me, it wasn't exciting. It wasn't the most boring fight I've ever seen. I've seen a lot worse fights than that, believe me. But it wasn't exactly entertaining. Big up to Penny. You're not late. We've only been on about 20 minutes. So we've got another hour to go. So you're fine. But you thought it was a robbery. Few people are saying that. I thought it was close. It was close. I work behind British Boxing. I was live on the panel. Oh, really? Big up to Josh Taylor. Josh Taylor's a good guy. Got a lot of time for Josh Taylor. A lot of time for Josh Taylor. He's a good lad. Had Parker by one. Wouldn't surprise me if Chisora nicked it. Actually, want to get to the comments, actually, where they were saying, so Chisora, Parker, Chisora, Parker. General consensus, judging Parker. General consensus is basically that people felt as though Chisora won the fight. And I agree. That seems to be the general consensus, is that Chisora won the fight. Yeah, Sebastian Fondora. I don't know how you do it. I don't know how he does it. It's bizarre. You know, when he fills out, he's going to be up at light heavy when he fills out. Seriously, he's 6'5", and he's fighting it that way. He's never going to make it forever. Once he fills out, he's shooting up. You know, he is shooting up the weight classes. Figueroa's performance was bizarre. All the switching gloves around his face with the other hands low was suicidal. Never seen anything like it. It's almost like he wanted to lose. He's just so erratic, Joe. He's all like, you see him there. On paper he should have won the fight, but I was like, nope, I'm not picking him to win the fight, because I just know he's so erratic. He's just absolutely so erratic that I was like, he's going to lose. I thought he'd lose on points, to be fair. So I put him down for points. Tank tweeted saying, who's Tennyson, because of Johnny Nelson's tweet. Pissed him off. Yeah, Johnny Nelson is just, I thought it was a losing him when I saw a fight. How did he win a title at lightweight? I have no idea. I know. And he went from lightweight straight to welter. So it shows the discipline issues he's had. It does. I'm glad I went against him in the prediction league. My prediction league was absolutely destroyed this week. Destroyed. I had a terrible week. I picked Conlon UD. He ended up winning at MD. Didn't see that fight, by the way. Sid picked the guy to beat Sonny Edwards. That didn't happen. I had a horrible week for predictions this week. I picked Lara to win on points, and he goes and knocks Cornflake out in the first round. Not a good week for me. Todd Parker edged it, but wouldn't have complained with a point or two either way. Yeah, that's spot on. Like, I don't have an issue if you had Parker winning the fight. I thought that Chisora, for me, just nicked it. But, I don't have a problem with guys either way. But the 116-111 scorecard was just BS. BS. Last night pay-per-view, meaningless figures. I don't care about the whole event. Glad yeah. Be interesting to see the figures for this fight, or the numbers for this fight, what it did. Being real interested to see what the numbers for this fight did. And judging by Ainsley Harry, it means I did well. I didn't do well at all this week, mate. I just like that avatar. It's either Ainsley Harriet or it's this. And I think I prefer Ainsley Harriet. That's that picture. Imagine that looking at you on a night out. Yeah. Chat you up. Imagine that's the face of someone who's ready to make his move. Look at that. Yeah. He's ready to make his move on a night out. Watched it last night with the commentary, and Todd Parker took the second half. Yeah. Todd Parker did take the second half. The commentary, the problem I have with commentary, I do like having the commentary there. But with Sky, it's so one-sided. And with Sky, the problem is sometimes it's so one-sided, they actually sway you and thinking rounds are diffs when they actually aren't. Like, I remember when Povetkin fought Michael Hunter, the commentary was very biased that night towards what Povetkin were doing, to the point where I actually thought Povetkin nicked it as well. I watched it the next day with the sound off. That was Michael Hunter's fight. They haven't put anything on Skyboxing YouTube channel. Yeah, I'd say those days are well and truly gone. I'd say a lot of those fights are going to get taken down from Skyboxing once Eddie Hearn and Matchroom do their deal. So I'd say enjoy those fights you have on YouTube, like the free fights on YouTube while you can, because I'd say they're well and truly gone. Question I have for everyone in the chat, because I haven't seen this fight yet, because I'm just curious as to see how he's getting on. How did Campbell Hatton look in this fight last night? Because I haven't seen it. How did he look against the guy who was 0-4? Because I wanted, did you notice any improvements, or is he still looking raw? He's obviously not going to improve much, but did he look like he settled in a bit? That's what I want to know. Watch the zone card. No Adam Smith win. Adam Smith is just beyond ridiculous. Oh, and actually, if you did watch it on Sky, was there many MEN references by Smith? Was there? Arisland, he couldn't miss. I seen the knockout. I seen the knockout punch. It was a good little shot. It was a good little shot. Campbell was terrible. Campbell looked okay. He didn't gas out. Yeah, the first fight, big up to Karma as well. Big up to you every single time. The problem, I think, with Hatton in his first fight, right? Karma Serene. I got the name right because I was thinking, how do you pronounce that? It's definitely Serene. Karma Serene. I was like, how do you pronounce that? But now the problem, I think, with Campbell in the first fight was that he tried too much to just go for the knockout, and he ended up gassing. But looked better. Looked like what he is, a raw novice. Yeah, he is a raw novice. I've seen fighters on Twitter who have like extensive amateur backgrounds call out Campbell Hatton for fights. And I mean, like, how sad can you be? How badly in need of a fight must you be if you're calling out someone who's 2-0, raw novice, and you're like, I'll fight you, no problem. It's like you really are reaching just to get on Sky. if you're that willing to fight a raw novice. And look, do I agree with Campbell Hatton being on all these pay-per-views? Not really. He needs to be brought up slowly, grassroots, put him on, the free portion. But still, you see like people who have like 12 pro fights, extensive amateur group, be like, yeah, I'll fight Campbell. Come on, mate. Cop on. That's just embarrassing for you, mate. That's just bitterness. Hatton was better, but not much. It's harder to get worse than the first time. Hatton more relaxed, but okay. Campbell Hatton was a bit more patient, but still very raw. Campbell Hatton is someone who is it's gonna take him years. Like, I think genuinely, and I won't be doing any videos on him for a while. I covered his pro debut, but from now on, I'm probably not going to do any videos on him for a while. We need to give him an awful lot of time. An awful lot of time. Because he's essentially, I think this is why I don't agree with having him on these shows. He is essentially doing the Mexican approach. So you have very few amateur fights and you learn as a pro. That has been proven to be effective by several different Mexican fighters. I'm not knocking that approach, but the thing about those guys is that even Canelo, they did that on obscure shows in Guadalajara and places like that. Campbell Hatton is on a major platform, right? And I'm sure he'll be on DAZN next. So for me, he really needs to, I would seriously be saying maybe one fight on Sky on the free portion and bring him to wherever the hell you can get him fights. Obviously, maybe, gradually step it up, but there's no one there, because that's what he needs. He needs that. He doesn't need to be put on all these major platforms and, having this, that, and having pressure put on him and saying, are you just like your dad? Are you this? He doesn't need that. The kid's only 20 years old. If you want to take him that road, the Mexican road, that's fine. Build him up gradually and slowly, that's fine. But I don't think you should be having him on any of these cards. Or if you do, put him on the YouTube portion, put him on the free portion, where there's no one there, there's no real pressure on you. Putting them on before the co-main event on a major pay-per-view and like that in Gibraltar, that's not a good idea. And I agree with what J-Dev there says there, big up. Hatton needs to be fighting every 4 weeks, not being used for these big cards. Exactly that. Every 4 to 6 weeks, get him out there, get him in, get him, just used to, but gradually build him up. Get him up to his 10 fights or whatever, gradually build him up. Put him on these shows now and again, these fight night shows. Have him low down the bill or something like that, that kind of approach. But having him on this high and you're putting pressure on the lad that he doesn't need. Because you got to bear in mind, as I said, this is someone who didn't have an extensive amateur background. So he's probably, he's not used to any of this. So you're putting an extra amount of pressure on him by putting him on basically peak time on the pay-per-view when all eyes will be on him. And obviously he's going to get a lot of criticism for it because, well, people are comparing, are you like your dad? Are you this, that? I think he needs to be just slowly brought along, small hall shows if you can get them, or whatever little show you can get him on. Gradually bring him up. Don't rush him, and he'll be fine. But he's Ricky Hatton's son, and as I said, you see people online saying, "Oh, I'll fight him next," and I'm glad. Eddie Hearn, how much do I'll fight him? And it's like, yeah, you fight him, but like you're calling out a novice pro. Come on, mate. I've seen a couple of fighters do that. I think I've seen an MTK fighter do it. What was the guy's name? I've seen a few fighters say they'd be like, I'll fight next, I'll do it on short notice. It's like, come on, man. Seriously, that's just trying to, get the name value. Hatton shouldn't be on these shows, never mind being so high up the bill. Yeah, exactly. He'll obviously get opportunities because of his name, but he needs to be brought along slowly. Oh, yeah. Oh, God, yeah. Big up to Limo. Shout out to you every time, but that's 100%. You're absolutely right there. They'll put him on that card 100%. And they'll probably have him high enough up the card, but we need to see, I wonder, will DAZN have a say? And this is actually, because I genuinely think this, will DAZN have a say in some of the fighters that come across? Because maybe they won't want to work with some of these fighters that Matchroom already have. Because they might look at some of these fighters themselves and think, well, maybe this guy is not anything. Maybe this guy is. Do we need these fighters? Do we need that fighter? So it could be something like that. You never know. Maybe DAZN won't want Campbell Hatton featured so high up the card. Maybe they'll look at him and think, no, maybe we'll have him on one of these shows or something like that. You never know. But yeah, exactly. Agree with you there. Jake Paul would. Jake Paul will call him out, no problem, if he thought it would get him, exposure or something. Campbell shouldn't be on TV, too much pressure. He's not had the amateur career. You see, even if he had an amateur career, some of those shows are featured on TV, Some of them are, like the WESB used to be featured on Box Nation. Don't know if it still is, but some of them would give you a bit of exposure on TV. Not this, not this level, when you've had no amateur career at all. It's like, what the hell? He seems to lack power. He's probably not been taught how to rotate his hips properly, how to get maximum power on his shots, and he is only 20, so I'd say the power will come. Judging by his first fight, he didn't look to be that devastating, the puncher, I'll have to say, but that power can be improved. The power can be improved, definitely. And he was throwing so many hard shots and missing that I'd say the sting probably went from a lot of his shots. Campbell is a kid. Give him a chance to learn his trade. The kid is trying his best at his year, and has the years to reach whatever potential he has. I agree with you 100%. I think that we put too much stock on fighters of past champions. So, like, when we see, example, Campbell Hatton, we obviously assume, oh, he should be. It's like, it's not always the same. A good example I'll always use is look at Steve Collins and look at Steve Collins Jr. Steve Collins was an excellent fighter, but his nephew or his son is garbage. Simple as that. I'll say it till the blue in the face. He can't fight. But he was promoted by Frank Warren early on in his career. Why? Because Frank Warren promoted Steve Collins Sr. and he was thinking, right, and then he realized soon after, this guy can't fight, and he stopped promoting him. So, that's the way it happens. Eddie needs to put him on their shows. He's going to be one of the faces of Matchroom for the Zone. He'll help sell out places. That's amazing. That's a good point. Campbell Hatton, if he got to like 10-0 in, say, 2 years' time, and there was enough hype around him, he probably could. Seriously, he probably could. Or if he got like out there on some of these shows, and he had Ricky helping him, he probably could fill out the MEN. I'm serious, he probably could. The Edwards brothers have had a fallout. Have they? Really? Both Edwards brothers have had a fallout. Holy shit, I didn't realize that. Oh, I didn't realize that. I didn't realize that either. Big up to Jake. Eddie and AJ will be announcing the fight this week. I hope so. I've kind of I don't want to say wake me up when we get there, but I'm kind of feeling like wake me up when we get there. And appreciate the super chat. That's going to Mateo's fun, by the way. But I kind of feel like that's saying wake me up when we get there at this stage. 90 or 67. We got 95 people in the chat. If you all could, I'd really appreciate it if you could smash the like button while you're at it. I really appreciate it. We got Ainsley Harriott there on screen as a good avatar. That's the kind of look he gives when you're liking, like the video. That's the kind of look you get there on screen when, you see a nice girl in a nightclub and you think, I'll give her that stare. Yeah, she won't turn that down. Imagine that kind of face looking back at you. Yeah, she won't turn you down. She'll just call the cops. Campbell should not have been on the Shopping Channel fight. Who was it who used to fight on? Was it James DeGale who used to fight in shopping malls with Mick Hennessy? That was funny. Hatton is just a kid. We'll need to watch, but he needs a lot more time. Yeah, he does. No, he does. You're absolutely right. He does. He needs a lot more time. No use trying to rush him. If you rush him and you pick the wrong fight, he is going to get absolutely leveled. We don't need that. Nice and, give him some time. Tony Boswell, shout out to you, my man. Much respect to you as well. Thank you for the 10 quid. Like I said, whatever soup chops I get, I give him the little Mateo. They go onto his GoFundMe page, so appreciate that. Big up to G-Man and the chat. Much appreciated. I hope you are having a great day, my man. Keeping well. Hope everyone's having a great Sunday. It's a bank holiday here in the UK. So I'm delighted. And, I was away kind of I was doing a few things the weekend, and I had a great time. Absolute great time. So I'm home now with the chill for the next day. So we're good. G-Man, thoughts on Ruiz's performance? Saw someone say Ruiz, Chisora would be good. Where'd that chat go? Would be good. If I considering how Ruiz looked. I seen highlights of it. Ruiz has always had a shaky defense. It has to be said. I definitely think that it's definitely interesting. Is everything? Oh shit! No, I thought something went wrong with the stream there. I definitely think that he's probably felt the inactivity. His head movement didn't seem there. It's an interesting fight. I'd make Ruiz still favourite at this stage. In fact, I think I'd make Ruiz firm favourite. I think if Chisora came at him, he'd box the head off him. I think fans are too reactionary. They'll look at Ruiz's performance last night and say it was crap. And yeah, it wasn't the best performance I've seen from him. But he's on the comeback trail with a new trainer. Give him a bit of time. I'd still pick Andy Ruiz over Dylan White. Seriously. I'd love that fight. I'd pick Chisora to win it, but I'd love that fight. I think that'd be an excellent fight. I think that'd be a hell of a fight. Arreola still has heart, you know. I thought the heart was well and truly gone after Wilder, but he's still got plenty of heart. He's still got something left. Michael Coffey versus Carlos Takam. I was major impressed with Michael Coffey when I seen him against Armani Rock. There's a lot of good fighters coming through in the heavyweight division. Michael Coffey is good. We have Filip Hrgovic, although he's probably not prospect anymore. Daniel Dubois. We've got Jared Anderson. Jared Anderson, if he doesn't win a world title, then I don't know. Because he's one of the most impressive young heavyweights I've seen in a while. If he doesn't win a world title, then I know nothing about boxing. Seriously, because I'm so convinced he's going to win a world title. He's very good. Big up to Junior. I'm the chat. Big up to you, man, every time. Warren said yesterday on Seconds Out with Ali Drew, just saying, jokes, obviously, that he got the contract from her and it's going to be over with now. Man, if we get this this week, I will be so happy. I believe we'll get it. I just, what irritates me is when you hear Bob Arum say we will and then we say we won't. It's just like, oh, what are we getting it or are we not getting it? Take a second to smash the like button to help support the channel. Lads and lassies, I don't ask for much, but yes, if you could. I won't ask for it again, I promise. We've 36 likes and we've 84 in the chat. Can we get it to 40 likes? Can we just click the like button, get it to 40 likes? Two more, come on, 2 more likes, we'll get it to 40 likes. There we go. We all good now. Appreciate that, people. Appreciate that. You're a great bunch of lads and lassies. You really are. I never messaged her, mate, so don't worry. I've never messaged Ali Drew, so don't worry. I won't be either. I'm all good in that department. I'm all good in that department. Ricky Hatton's second fight was in Madison Square Garden. Yeah, man. Ricky Hatton was brought. We see Ricky Hatton had an amateur background, you know. He was fighting guys. A fight I would have loved to have seen. And it's a shame we never seen it. I think this would have been a war. Would have been Shane Erie versus Ricky Hatton when Ricky Hatton was on the come up. Because when Ricky Hatton was on the come up, Shane Erie was WBU champion. Because Frank Warren at the time, towards the late 90s, early 2000s, was trying to make the WBU title. Kind of what he did with the WBO. And I think him versus Shane Erie, that's a fight we never got to see. That would have been a hell of a fight. Ricky Hatton would have won the fight, I reckon, because Shane Erie was always big at 140 and he didn't like it to the body. And we saw that against Mickey Ward. But that's a fight that a British fight that would have been amazing. You know, Shamrock Express versus the Hitman. And even Mickey Ward versus Ricky Hatton would have been a great fight. Arturo Gatti would have knocked Ricky Hatton out, in my opinion, but it would have still been a great fight. Who do you think will be Ireland's next champion? That's a very good question. Not Michael Conlon. Not Michael Conlon. Mike Conlon's not winning a world title. I'm sorry, he's not winning it. Paddy Donovan, possibly. I like Stevie McKenna. He looks very good. I think Stevie McKenna looks the real deal. He's still quite young, but he's looking good. So I would say probably Stevie McKenna. I think he's got a shot. Not Conlon. I really can't see anyone else. There's very few prospects coming through in Ireland that really excite me. Paddy Donovan, Stephen McKenna are the two. People might say Gary Cully. Yeah, he looks okay, but Thomas McCarthy. It's actually Thomas Carty, the heavyweight. I used to train in the same gym as him. He is a gentleman. Great lad. Great lad. I actually used to train alongside him. He's a cool guy. He is really, really cool. And he is turning pro. He's turning pro. I think he's making his debut in Belgium or something, if I'm not mistaken. But he is a great guy, cool guy. Like I said, I used to train alongside him. Obviously, he was 10 times better than me because he's pro and I'm sitting here talking. But, you know, he's great. So we need to see how he looks. I watched him spar many times. And I thought that against some of the pros, he was looking good. He's a slick southpaw. We don't have many of them. So I'll be definitely looking at Tommy Carty's career very, very close. He's been in camp with Lawrence Acolli and Dereck. He was actually one of Chisora's sparring partners for the USEC fight. So he's getting good sparring and he's not even turned pro yet. So we'll see how Tommy Carty goes. He's only about 6'2", 6'3" at heavyweight. So that may be a slight hindrance to him, but we'll wait and see. But Paddy Donovan is excellent. I love watching Paddy Donovan. And Paddy Donovan's only 22 years old. So he's still very young. Plenty of time to improve. He's looking great. Who's the Kildare one coming through? Katie something? No, it's Kathleen Phelan. I got her name wrong once. And Mark Unrivaled corrected me. Caitlin Phelan. That's her name. Caitlin Phelan. She's very good as well, actually. Caitlin Phelan is, I think she's 6-0. She was, her real standout moment was last year. She was brought over to Germany to fight an undefeated German fighter. And she was brought in as the away fighter. Won every round, stopped her in 5. And she looks very, very good. So I think she's fighting at lightweight now. So same division as Katie Taylor. So we'll keep an eye on her because she's excellent, actually. She's very good. I've seen her fight live in Cork, actually. She fought... she fought an old, no, to be fair, the one she fought was in her 50s. I remember that well, actually. It was a 4-rounder. But you can see she's quite useful. So I'll be keeping an eye on her. Yeah, Caitlin Phelan is excellent. I always say Caitlin, I don't know why. Caitlin Phelan is excellent. She is. So we'll be definitely keeping a close eye on her, see how she gets on. You know, like that, took a fight on short notice, came through and gone from strength to strength now, and we'll definitely be keeping a very, very sharp eye. And she's only 21 years. I think she's not even. She might even be 20. So very young. So plenty of time like that as well. And I can always say I've seen her fight live. Seen her fight live down in Cork 2 years ago. That whole card was rubbish, by the way. And I'm telling you now, like, I've gone to like live shows in the UK. And I've gotten big shows in the UK, like, and I've gone to small hall shows in Ireland. And the price difference is crazy. It's way dearer to go to a small hall show here than it is to go to a big show in the UK. It's crazy. You wouldn't think it, but it is. Who do people think would win out of Cheeseman Fowler? Personally, honest opinion, I think Anthony Fowler knocks Ted Cheeseman's spark out. I think that Ted Cheeseman is better. He's better technically, but he just doesn't have a defense. And I think Anthony Fowler's power is legit. But I think it's going to be as simple as that. He's going to knock Ted Cheeseman out. I think that he's going to knock Ted Cheeseman out. Hang on, look at this. Shame to see a chap like G-Man become a king simp over women's boxing Saturday. Ain't no simp. Ain't no simp, bro. Ain't no simp. Your boy ain't simping. Definitely not. Your boy ain't simping. Don't worry about that. Savannah Marshall is the best female fighter. Yeah, she's my number 1 pound for pound. But aren't any good fights for her apart from Shields? No, not really. But I'd have her pound for pound number 1. I'd have her number 1, probably Shields second, Katie. No, I'd probably have Amanda Serrano second, Shields third, Katie Taylor fourth. That'd be my pound for pound. But your boy ain't, Jada, your boy ain't simping. Have no fear of that. Have no fear of that. That's one thing your boy ain't doing. Cheeseman has improved the defense slightly, though. He has, to be fair, but he still is willing to take a few to land a few, like against Metcalf. Metcalf hurt him. Metcalf hurt him prior to him getting stopped. Like, that was a great fight, but I genuinely just think that Anthony Fowler is quite a limited fighter, and he's probably past his best already. Seriously, I mean, they were acknowledging the fact that Fowler was probably an old 27-year-old a couple of years ago, like 3 or 4 years ago. So he's probably not, seriously. I know Fowler's not happy. He's probably not got much long left. You know, he'd had a tough amateur career as well. He took a lot of shots in the amateurs, but I'd still give him over Cheeseman. G-Man, who's your favorite fighter, both past and present? I don't think I've ever heard you say this before. All right. My favorite fighters, past and present. Currently, my favorite fighters, right? Like present. Deontay Wilder. I know you might not believe that, but I love watching Deontay Wilder. Love watching for the excitement. Canelo. Anthony Joshua. Right? Obviously, love Anthony Joshua. Bo Charlos. I honestly do like Bo Charlos. I think they're great. I just think that Jamal lets himself down a bit by having one great performance then to fight this guy, the guy he's fighting now. So I like the Charlos, like Canelo, AJ Fury. I used to like Povetkin when he was in his prime. You know, the Povetkin we have now should retire. In my opinion, he really should. But Povetkin of 5 years ago, I knew. Look, I know he was a drug cheat, all that, but I still watch him. Sergey Kovalev, love Sergey Kovalev. Don't like Sergey Kovalev as a person, but definitely. And actually, Ted Cheeseman, a guilty pleasure. I love watching Ted Cheeseman and David Price. David Price as well. Whenever he fights, I will tune in. David Price is the one fighter I will cover all of his fights without question. David Price. If there was a pay-per-view and it was crap, absolutely crap, but they put Pricey on against someone who was limited but can punch, take my money. Take my money. How much do you want? 25 quid? There you go. Take it. Seriously, take the money. Take the money, Pricey. So that's kind of my fighters now. In terms of past, Nigel Benn, McClellan, Tyson, Foreman, love Larry Holmes, Muhammad Ali, Jack Dempsey. Love me some Jack Dempsey. Love me a bit of Jack Dempsey. Ezra Charles. Who else do I like? Sugar Ray, obviously. Of course, both Sugar Rays. Sugar Ray Robinson, Sugar Ray Leonard. Hagler, Hearns. I pretty much like big punchers. Love me some big punchers. But I love a bit of technical in there as well. You chuck Ezra Charles in there. You know, I love watching some of Ezra Charles. Who else do I like watching? Do you know who I watched a lot of? Max Schmeling. I watched a good few of his fights from back in the 30s. That boy could punch. Could Schmeling. I remember watching this fight against the guy called Young Striblin. He's the only guy to stop Young Striblin. That guy, 300 pro fights, and he was only 28 when he died. 300 pro fights. It's crazy. And he only lost about 14, 15 of them, which is crazy. But yeah, I love a lot of old fighters. But for me, probably my two favorite would be Nigel Benn. I love him, man. I love Nigel Benn. Man, Nigel Benn is just love Nigel Benn. Probably Nigel Benn be my favorite. And I'd probably put Ali second favorite. They'd be my two favorites. So a boxer and a puncher. Simple as. A boxer and a puncher. They're my two favorites. What's up? I'm new here. Big up. Welcome to the channel. 99 people in the building. One more, we get 100 in the building. We hit the 100. We hit the 100. We hit the 100 in this chat, will we? Come on, one more person join and we hit the 100. Fuck you. Nah. It's all G. We got 96 in the building. Smash the like button. Show your support for the hard work. Haven't been working too hard this weekend, mate, to be honest with you. I've had other things on my mind. And if you like the content, please feel free to subscribe. Yes, the subscription costs nothing. It doesn't cost you a penny. And you get to see some ripped jeans and Ainsley Harriott. There you go. So I think that's a good trade. Get boxing content, ripped jeans, and Ainsley Harriott. That's where else are you going to get that offer? Nowhere. You're only going to get it here. Answered that perfectly. Yeah, no, I like Marciano as well. Don't get me wrong. I did like Marciano. I don't watch as much of Marciano's highlights as I do of, guys like, I was only watching some Archie Moore's fights the other day. I can't get over the fact that Moore had 220 pro fights, was knocked out 11 times, I believe, had wars. And there was an interview with him after he finished his career. And he's so well spoken. Like, you'd never think this was a fighter. For someone who's been knocked out 11 times. And the way he speaks is just so... And I love the way he said, like, he saw himself as a vicious man in the ring, but he was also unhappy that this was how he had to make his career. It recommended, actually. If you watch Archie Moore interview, I think it's one of the first ones you'll find. The man is so intelligent, well-spoken. It's crazy. Archie Moore was a legend. Eubank Jr. fought tie-in boots leftovers. He did. No doubt we'll have a little... you probably have tie-in boot come out and say, I did a better job than Eubank Jr. Sipping on a bottle of Echo Falls. Yeah, thanks for that. Thank you for the 79 pence. Yeah, thanks for that. I do appreciate that. Apologies there. Cornflake versus that guy Charlo's fighting is a genuine 50-50. It honestly would be. Charlo definitely getting the first round KO, probably, more than likely. But I genuinely, because Lara, you could put Lara in a mismatch and he'll still win a 12-round UD. He's that sort of fighter. But that left hand he landed, that was a good left hand. Lara's always been a good fighter. I wonder, is he as skilled as Billy Joe? I don't think Billy Joe was as skilled as a prime Erislandy Lara, because you have to say that was Erislandy Lara in his prime when he fought Canelo. Is Billy Joe as skilled as that? Is he as skilled as a prime Erislandy Lara? I don't think he is. Eric Morales was your favorite fighter. I left out Arturo Gatti. I've watched almost all of his fights. I'm happy to hype up Cheeseman. What a warrior. He gives you value for money. Oh, Ted Cheeseman's always going to give you value for money, mate. That's one thing about the big cheese. He will... he's never going to be in a dull fight. Even if he gets knocked out in the first round, it's going to be a war. What's your thoughts on Conway versus Suleiman Shakiko? Conway's improved massively over the years. Still lacks that little bit of punching power at the highest level. But Conway's improved massively. He fought one of my mates a couple of years ago, end of 2019. And that was a real competitive... That actually put... To be fair, that performance put his performance into context, because he's had much better performances over guys who are seemingly better fighters. But when he fought my mate before Christmas 2019, that was a close fight. That was a real competitive fight. And Conway's improved a lot since then. Oh, yeah, I remember that. Heard said Lara was the biggest puncher he fought, but he's negative and doesn't hold his feet. That's the problem with Erislandy Lara. You can tell that there is genuine punching power there. And I believe that there is as well. But he's very safety first, is Erislandy Lara. He's happy to just keep it on the outside, win it on points, just, not do what he needs to do to win. That's essentially what Erislandy Lara wants to do. Go through the motions, win on points. We've seen it time and time again from Lara. But I'm sure if he wants to, and we've seen it in times, in spots from Lara, where he has wanted to go and, really hurt his opponent. And when he has, yeah, he's looked quite devastated. But it's few and far between. Mike Conlon is so overrated. We found, well, Michael Conlon is not going to... If he wins a world title, I'll be amazed. Conlon has Stephen Fulton, Luis Neri. Who else? Akhmedov. I wouldn't pick him over. He'd get destroyed over all three of them. If he moves up to featherweight, which is probably his best division. Navarrete, Russell Jr., Lara. I know he's not a champion. Probably Kid Galahad. He's not beating them guys. So Conlon got a lot of hype. He Conor McGregor before McGregor fought Mayweather, bring him to the ring for his first pro fight. So he's got a lot of hype behind him, but that's it. He's like a more hyped Josh Kelly That's the kind of best way to. He doesn't do anything special, but he has that just flash, a bit of flash to him. And the minute he fights someone who is a good, effective pressure fighter who can counterpunch, he is screwed. And look, I'm Irish, Mike Conlan's Irish, but I got to call it like I see it. Conlan will never, if he wins a world title, I'll be stunned. And I think was it Mark said that they heard he might even try 118. Casimiro, Inoue, Nordine Ubale, Nito Donaire. I mean, it doesn't get any easier from. Do you think Eubank Jr. will be a great fight, puncher versus boxer? I think I would make Demetrius Andre heavy favorite in that fight. I think Demetrius Andre would box rings around Eubank Jr. And Demetrius Andre is so awkward that he would just box rings around Eubank Jr. So I'd make Demetrius, and Demetrius Andre can punch too. He's definitely a boxer puncher. Oh, I remember that. Yeah, when he fought Joey Maxim. Joey Maxim was a great light heavyweight champion. He took Floyd Patterson's though. But I remember that. And he won the world light heavyweight title. He held it for 10 years. Fought Marciano during the time. Lost that. Fought Patterson, lost that. And he fought Ali. I think that was his second to last fight, was when he fought Muhammad Ali. Because he had one more fight thereafter. Barrera was class, although I hated him because I was more a Morales fan. Yeah. You had your favorites. I was always more a Marco Barrera fan, to be honest with you, than I was. I liked them both, don't get me wrong. I loved Eric Morales too, but I was always kind of preferred Barrera. It was always more kind of my thing to watch. I like Barrera. Ray Robinson, both Sugar Rays. What about Tyrone McKenna? Well, his opponent pulled out on the eve of the fight because he literally couldn't make the weight. You know, he said it was to do with you know what, but Tyrone McKenna even said it, that this guy said, like, I think they wanted to move the weight or something like that. So it was to do with the weight. Simple as. It wasn't to do with you know what. It was to do with, Tyrone McKenna even said it himself. He was like, it's to do with weight. He couldn't make the weight, and that was as simple as. And I don't think they wanted to, because I think McKenna made weight and he weighed in. So apparently, that means you still get paid. So they were happy to go. Tennyson got destroyed. Yeah, that was always inevitable. Tennyson would get destroyed. You know, the minute he fought someone who can bang back, that was going to happen. I like James Tennyson. He's a good fighter. Like, he's fun to watch, but that for me was always going to happen. That was inevitable. That was inevitable that he was going to get absolutely iced by someone at some stage. Johnny Nelson just wanted to kill the poor kid by putting him in there with Tank Davis. I mean, could you imagine Tank Davis, an uppercut from him, the uppercut that Leo Santa Cruz got hit with? Now, could you imagine what that would have done to James Tennyson? Jesus. Tennyson is all about punching power. And that's why I enjoy watching him, because he goes in there trying to take your head off. That's why I enjoy watching James Tennyson. But he neglects so much in the way of defense, in the way of head movement. There's so much about Tennyson that he does wrong that just aren't addressed. But, you know, hopefully this, because he's lost before, but not this devastatingly. And he's lost that world. Well, he lost, was it Ryan Joyce or Ryan Doyle? But he couldn't make the weight for that fight. And then he lost at oral level. But this is just a kind of an IBO interim fight or a title fight. So getting knocked out in the first round, it's gonna hurt. Parker Ruiz. I'd take Andy Ruiz in that rematch. I thought Ruiz was very unlucky not to win the first fight. You know, it's not, again, people cry robbery. Wasn't a robbery, but I thought he was unlucky. What about Big Troy with the brutal KO on the BT card? I picked Kieran Smith to win that fight. And I thought he was boxing very well, was Kieran Smith. Troy Williamson, great knockout. Great knockout. I seen the knockout. I seen the highlights. Great finish. Once he hurt him, he didn't let him away. Mick Conlan, Paddy Barnes, James Tennyson, all Belfast lads. Well, Paddy Barnes was a good amateur. It was a very good amateur, but he stayed amateur way too long. He had the amateur style ingrained into him. He was jaded the minute he turned pro, so he had nothing left. If Paddy Barnes had turned pro at a younger age, I don't know how far he would have went, but he would have definitely. I'm not saying he would have won world titles or anything like that necessarily, but I definitely think he would have done better than he did. Fantasy matchup: Bo versus Ibeabuchi. Great fight. Holy shit, that would be a war. That would be an all-out war. Oh boy, that's a tough one. Ibeabuchi, great engine, good chin, good punch, control a lot of punches. Bo, versatile, good jab, good long-range boxer, could fight on the inside, tremendous punching power, physically strong. Bo's biggest weakness was his defense. He had a terrible defense. I think Ibeabuchi, so we don't know how good he could have been, because I think at his peak was when he was in jail. Oh, I would just, if I had to pick, I would probably just edge Bo, just edge him to pull out a decision. But that fight would be a war, absolute war. Cubans genuinely have punching power, especially with the straight punches. They don't make the use of it. There's an amateur that I was watching a lot of highlights of called Andy Cruz. He's a Cuban amateur. He's a lightweight. Very, very impressive. Probably one of the most impressive amateurs I've seen in terms of his ability and his movement and his slickness. But like that, they tend to kind of focus more so on the slickness as opposed to anything else. So for me, they probably are hitting a lot harder than they let on, but they just focus. They probably teach them that way from very early on to be slick. Just be slick, use your movement, and if you need to win it on points. Obviously, you've got guys like Frank Sanchez, Luis Ortiz, who are heavyweights who can just, like Luis Ortiz is a very big puncher. And what I find interesting about Ortiz, and on Air Dordico, someone said there, Luis Ortiz, a lot of people have sparred him and sparred Anthony Joshua, and the general consensus from people who sparred the two is that Ortiz is the harder puncher. So Ortiz's power not to be underestimated. I know he's about 50. The fuck is he 41? The fuck is he 41? And the same with Frank Sanchez. The fuck are they fucking 41 and 50 or at 27 or 28? No way. They're older than that, way older. It's just how older are they? But that's the one thing. But the Cubans, that's one thing about them as well, that you can never trust their age. I genuinely believe Erislandy Lara is as young as he says he is. I think he's 38. I'm not going to say it, but there you go. Just in case. Just have a read of that. I ain't going to say it. Well, I'm just going by what the sparring partners have said. And if you've seen interviews, I forget who they were, but you can Google it. You can go and put it up on YouTube. I think there's some on Seconds Out. And they've said that they sparred Joshua. Who was it? Might have even been Gassiev, but I've definitely seen people say that Ortiz is the harder puncher. I don't know. I've never been hit by any of them. Thank goodness. Thank goodness for that. I don't want to be hit by any of them. But I'm just going on what they say. They deflect from Cuba and leave their birth certs. Yeah, they do. Luis Ortiz said he watched Muhammad Ali fight live. Right? Ali's last fight was in 81 against Berbick. That would make Luis Ortiz 2 years old, if his age is correct. I doubt very much he remembers that. Now, I could be wrong. I remember stuff from when I was 2, but I doubt very much that. If the general hadn't been locked up, we'd have seen some great fights. Yeah, it's a shame. Do you remember when he came out of prison? He was talking about fighting Andy Ruiz. I don't remember that. In 2016, he was released from prison, and they were talking about him fighting Andy Ruiz. Edwards versus Martinez. What's the saying? Martinez will have one for lunch and the other for brunch. That's what I think will happen. Did I watch Hogan's last fight? No, I've actually never catch Tim Zoo's fight because they're always on while I'm working. And I didn't see any of the footage of that fight, unfortunately. I've watched Dennis Hogan. He's awkward. I know Dennis Hogan, he's awkward. Sparring stories also say Fury hits harder, hits super hard when he sits down in the shots. I've been around gyms long enough to know that strange things happen in sparring. And I'm telling you now, they really do. I've seen light heavyweights go in there for spars with lightweights and get dropped by body shots. I've seen that. And big light heavyweights with relatively small lightweights. And I've seen lightweights drop them. I've seen a lot of things. Sparring, lots of weird things happen because you'll spar way more rounds in your whole career than you ever will fight. So what I say about sparring is that usually if you hear a little rumor, not always, but it normally is true because strange things do happen in sparring. They really do. They really do. Strange things do definitely happen in sparring. I've seen that. I've been around gyms long enough to know that they do. There have been a few fantastic British fights that could have been made over the last decade, and now we're still waiting. Don't particularly want to go there. Yeah, I know. That's the problem. You want to get these great fights, you know. I mean, just the first one that comes to mind, 5-6 years ago, Brook would have been a hell of a fight. Now, for nostalgic reasons, I'd watch it, but they're both way past it. I mean, that might be a good fight just because they're both past it, but imagine 2014 2014 Brook. That would have been a hell of a fight. I think that Kell Brook would have won. I think he'd have knocked Amir Khan out. Sheldon was a monster in sparring and the chump in the ring. But you have that. Like, I've seen it as well. I've seen fighters in the gym where they've been in the gym and you look at them in the gym and you think, you could beat anybody. Like, you could put them in there in the ring with someone at domestic level. I've seen this a couple of years ago. So there's one person who comes to mind. And I'd be like, you could put them in the ring with a domestic level fighter and they'd beat them from pillar to post. You get the lights on in the crowd and it's like another fighter altogether. It's like what he was doing in sparring, he's not doing it in the ring. And they actually get tireder. Like, I've seen fighters do 10 rounds in sparring at a decent pace, looking brilliant, still strong at the end, then going and hitting the bag, going in there in a 6-rounder, not fighting at a frantic pace, and they're blowing for days. It's just, sparring is different. That's what it was. Sparring is just very, very different. They're in their own environment, and there's a lot of things. There's a lot of different things in sparring. Brook wouldn't sell out the York Hall now. I'd have to agree, unfortunately. Kell Brook is really, I mean, people say Amir Khan is washed, but I think Kell Brook's probably further gone than Amir Khan. Doesn't say necessarily I pick Amir Khan, but Amir Khan doesn't seem as bad. Why Ainsley Harriott? Why not? Like I said, it was either Ainsley Harriott or this. Definitely Ainsley Harriott. Sorry about that. I clicked on the wrong button. I almost ended up kicking myself from the stream. That was my bad. But definitely Ainsley Harriott. Oh, yeah, shit. I don't want that. Well, you can go with Ainsley Harriott. You can go with that, or you can go with that. I think I'll stick with Ainsley. Is there going to be another Super Series? Definitely. No, they'll definitely do another Super Series. Definitely. Who are your top 5 hardest punchers in heavyweight right now? Well, you got to have Wilder number 1. Definitely. Number 2, AJ. I'd put AJ number 2. You see, then it's kind of strange because I would put David Price in my top 5. Because you don't know, like, it's easy to say that these fighters here are the hardest punchers, but you could have really devastating punchers who are not that good. You know, look at Darnell Boone. Tremendous puncher. Knocked out Adonis Stevenson. Has dropped Sergey Kovalev. Has dropped Andre Ward. If you look at some of his knockouts, they're devastating. But he's got loads of losses. He's been stopped loads of times. But I'm sure if you asked hardest punching middleweights, he'd be right up there. So it's very hard to accurately state it. You'd have to put them all in a punch machine nearly. But I want to say Wilder AJ, Hellenius, I put Hellenius at number 3 because Hellenius can bang with the best of them. For all his flaws, he can punch. I'd even say maybe he even hits harder than David Price. Probably put David Price in there at number 4. Who else? Who would I put in number 5? I think of big punching heavyweights. I'm trying to think. That's my top 4. Hellenius has definitely got to be in there. Who else? Someone, I was thinking Dubois. But I think there might be others out there who hit just as hard. You see, Dylan White, yes, yeah, Dylan White's left hook. But I wonder if I'm thinking you could do that, but I'm wondering, is it just the left hook? Could I put Dylan White's left hook in there? Do you know who I would actually say, just judging from what I've seen? Probably Ajagba. Ajagba's right hand is the truth when he lands that shot. Ajagba's technique is terrible, but his right hand, when he lands it, that's legit. You know, look at his last knockout. I forget the guy's name. Brian Howard, was that the guy's name? Maybe even Ajagba, I'd put him in number 5. I'd then probably Dylan White after. But I'd probably put Ajagba in number 5. So I'll go with I go AJ. I go Wilder, AJ, Hellenius, Price, Ajagba. For me, that would be my personal pick. Jaron Anderson looks mighty. So he does. Jaron Anderson, really impressed with him. He's only 21 years old. He's going places. Not a fan, but why he hits harder than Hellenius? I don't know about that, man. I don't know. Hellenius has loads of flaws. Fucking loads of them. But punching power ain't one of them. And he hurt Dylan White real bad in their fight. Hellenius can punch. He's just so slow and so crude. But Hellenius is definitely a big puncher. Definitely. Any big man is a killer if he stands in front. Well, that's true at the end of the day. I mean, like, you could have... Look at that. Look, you have Pavek in there, right? Who is way beyond his best. But if he can just land a shot in front of you, he'll hurt you. He'll knock you out. If a man is 230, 40 pounds, 6'3", 6'4", and he throws a big haymaker at you, you know, you could have a good... Well, unless you're Marius Wack, you'd be fine. But anyone else, you're going down. Marius Wack, he'll just... I mean, I think David Hay said you need a baseball bat to knock him out. Unless you're Marius Wack, you'd be fine. You won't be fine. If you're Marius Wack, he'll probably just... what was that? But anyone else, yeah. Anyone else, we're good. Once again, thanks for covering women's boxing. Anytime. One of the best fights last night. I seen the highlights. It looked really good. I'll probably watch the full thing later, but I've got a lot to catch up on. You know, got a lot to catch up on. Top 5 chins in boxing or top 5 chins in the heavyweight box? Talk about top 5 chins in boxing. Number 1 would probably be Marius Wack. You could say Golovkin, but the fact that he's doing that against heavyweights and he's taking guys like Klitschko's power, Dylan, like Marius Wack takes so many shots, he just doesn't go down. So you'd have to say, in terms of pound for pound, Marius Wack's chin is the best because he's the one who's getting hit with more force. You got to put Golovkin in at second, definitely. I think his chin is one of the best in the business. Who else has a good chin? Canelo's definitely got a good chin. So you got to put him in there because Canelo has shown that, proven it, to have a very good chin. Who else do we have now? Who else do we know in boxing who has a very good chin through all the divisions? See, people saying Dimitri Bivol, but do you know who has a very good chin? Naoya Inoue. He's got a chin. If you can take a solid right hand from the Nita Donaire at 118 pounds, and yeah, he held on, but he didn't go down, you've got a good chin. You've definitely got a very good chin. So I got to put Naoya Inoue down. Joe Joyce, definitely. Very good chin. Errol Spence. Someone said Jarrett Hurd. I don't think Jarrett Hurd's chin is that good. He's been down in fights from shots. I think that Hurd is just... I've never rated Jarrett Hurd. Nothing against the guy personally, but all he does, or all he did, was just maraud forward, throwing arm punches, and use his size. That's it. That was Jarrett Hurd's whole game. So for me, Hurd is just a middleweight who chooses to fight at 154 pounds. The guy got outboxed by Jason Wellborn, for God's sake. Tyson Fury is 20% taller than Carl Frampton. Comment on this and any interest in Frampton adaptations. Ain't got no interest in Frampton adaptations this time, mate. Ain't got none. Yeah, Eubank Jr. has a pretty good chin. He does. George Groves did hurt him a couple of times, but Groves can bang. I was clicking on Nick's there. Inoue is a good shout. Yeah, Inoue, like as I said, like I mean, the Nita Donaire at 118. If you can take a solid right hand or a solid... Now, he never took a left hook. We don't know, because Nonita Donaire's left hook is better. But if you're taking his shots, a straight shot in the chin from Nonita Donaire at 118, your chin's good. And you're still standing, your chin's good. I know he was hurt, you know, when he held on for dear life. But I'm telling you now, there's a lot of 118-pounders who would have took that same shot, who would have been sleeping. So, Inoue, for me, that guy's got a chin. There's a lot of people at that weight who, if they took that same right hand from Nonita Donaire, they would have been sleeping. Because Donaire is no joke. I think he'll beat Donaire O'Bale. Just my opinion. I think he'll beat him. Watch Joyce and Johan Dupa. I think his chin's regressed a bit. You know, he had a very good chin, but I think it's regressed post-Povetkin. That was a bad knockout. That was a bad knockout against Povetkin. So I think that his chin has regressed a little bit since then. He was stopped in a round by Yoka. Frampton is tiny. He is a real little guy in terms of size. You know, obviously. Can't wait to make Garcia versus Tank Sleepy Garcia. Yeah, Ryan Garcia. Did Ryan Garcia say he'd fight Tank Davis? That'd be interesting. Yeah, Josh Taylor's got a decent set of whiskers on him. And Ramirez does hit hard, so Josh Taylor will need a good chin against Ramirez. People sleep on Ramirez. Ramirez has got punching power there. Make no mistake about that. Seen people saying Spence. Spence has got a decent chin. He took Kell Brook shots fine. Garcia never really tagged him with full power, but Garcia is not that big a puncher anyway. Garcia needs you standing right in front of him. And then he can land with full power. Then he can hit hard. Now, that's the $1 million question, isn't it? I don't know who'd come out on top in that one. That's a great question. That is the... Look at that. Now, that's the question I'd love to know. Wilder's right hand versus Wax chin. The irresistible force meets the immovable object. That's what you'd call it. I really don't know who I'd take there, because Wilder's right hand could knock a horse out. But Wax chin is... I'd say probably Wilder, if Wilder took his best swing, although saying that, he took right hands from Klitschko like they were nothing, the same right hands that nearly killed AJ. I would probably say Wilder's right hand would win. I mean, Wilder would knock Marius Wack out if he landed clean. But Marius Wack chin is... Holy shit. I've never seen... It's the fact... I think, Ade from Box Talk with Ade, when we met up last year, we were laughing at that, Marius Wack's chin. And he said that he actually interviewed him. And he said that everything about Wack is big. Like, he's seen guys in the past who were 6'5", 6'6", but not like this. He said this is different. Everything about him is just... It's like there's... I think they said the same about Valaev, that it's like his bone structure is so dense that everything is just bigger. So he said he'd never seen anything like it. So that probably would explain why he's able to take such a good shot. He's enough chin to... I've never seen a chin like Marius Wax, one of the best in the business. And he'll take them shots for fun. It's a shame we'll never see that fight. That would have been a very good fight. A young up-and-coming Wilder against Marius Wack. That would have been a great little scrap. Because it would have really told us a lot about Wilder. Might have helped him. Yeah, that's the problem as well. Like, Wilder probably if he hit Marius Wack clean, yeah, he'd probably KO him, but he'd probably destroy his hand. He's broke that right hand so many times. Landing it on Marius Wack's chin, that right hand would be gone. That'd be wrote off. That right hand would be gone for good. So you gotta compromise. Let's see. Do you think AJ is chinny? No, I don't. I don't think he's got an iron jaw, but I wouldn't call him chinny. If he was chinny, the shots that have dropped him or hurt him probably would have knocked him out. For me, AJ doesn't have he's not got an iron chin, but I think his biggest problem is that when he does get hurt, he doesn't recover as quick. So when AJ gets dropped or he gets hurt, they're good shots that drop him, but he takes longer to recover. That's what I think is AJ's biggest problem. In terms of if he was really chinny, we would have seen it by now. So I don't think he's chinny, but I don't think he's got the strongest chin either. He's probably on par with maybe a bit below Fury, in around there. Because Fury's not got the strongest chin either. I know Wilder dropped him. That's fine. He drops everyone. But Steve Cunningham, never a big puncher at cruiserweight, much less a heavyweight. And that was a good shot. And that Nevin Pikic had only like 4 stoppages. Now, again, you can't judge him because Bob Ajasafi dropped Tony Bellew, and he only had about 2 stoppages. But Bob Ajasafi can definitely punch. But I would say that Fury and AJ, maybe Fury has a slightly better chin, but they're not much different. Ade is high on Conlan. I think that Ade hasn't seen probably enough of the guys in around Mike Conlan's division. So, because I haven't really spoke with Ade about boxing in a while. I haven't spoken to him about a month. But I'm sure he's probably looking at Conlan thinking Conlan is looking this, and thinking, yeah, I'm sure Conlan can win a world title. But I'm sure he hasn't looked at someone like a Stephen Fulton. Hasn't looked at someone like, I only mentioned his name. I can't only mention his name. His name slips me. Someone like that, like the guys in his division, Luis Neris, Makhmedov. I'm sure he's probably not looked them enough to see how good they are. And once he looks at them and sees what they are, he'd be like, yeah, Conlan's not beating these guys. So for me, that's probably why Ade is high on Conlan. And like that, it'd be the same for me in the other divisions as well. Be the same for me. As what I mean by that is it'd be the same if he was up at featherweight or down at the lower divisions. So Stephen Fulton, Conlan ain't beating him. Conlan ain't beating Stephen Fulton. I just heard Eddie say he was pretty unimpressed with Conlan and needs at least another fight before a title. I haven't seen Conlan's performance in full. I was doing stuff on Friday night, couldn't watch it. Well, I wasn't in my house Friday night. And what I heard, Conlan didn't look great. I didn't think he would against that guy, but they want to give him a world title shot. You could give him 10 warm-up fights, he won't be ready. He's still not beating Stephen Fulton. He's not beating Luis Neri. He's not beating... I wouldn't pick him over any of the champions. If a weak champion came up, yeah. What? Now, you trolling or is that legit? That legit or are you trolling? Is that legit or is that a troll? Or is someone trolling the chat? Right there. Well, I ain't seeing it. But you never know these days. You never do know these days, but I ain't seeing it. Certainly not. Ade is like someone who doesn't know boxing but covers the news good in this channel. Ade does know boxing. I give him that. No, he does. I don't think he covers it as in-depth as someone like I would. And what I mean by that is like, I'd look at like like Mark would cover it way more than me, but I'd look at like every division and be like, right, so look at Conlon, be like, this is Conlon. Who was he in there with? Stephen Fulton. Let's look at Fulton. He's good. Neary. I've seen enough of Neary. He's good. Mac, but I'm just like, oh, he's not beating these guys. You know, so I'd look at the guys in around that division and everything before making an assumption. It'd be like that with like someone like Paddy Donovan. Like I can look at Paddy Donovan and say he's very good, but he's gonna have to go through guys. Like if he wants a European title, he'd have to fight David Avanesian. Would I pick Paddy Donovan over David Avanesian? No. No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't dare like Paddy Donovan. I wouldn't pick him over David Avanesian in the month of Sundays. G-Man, another haircut party with the lads. Yeah, this Thursday, mate. This Thursday. Definitely. Didn't do as fight Povetkin in something not far short of trainers. Yeah, he went over. So Povetkin was meant to be fighting Stavern for an interim WBC title. And then they weighed in, and Povetkin popped not long after. So the WBC withdrew their sanction. So Stavern said, fuck this, I'm not fighting you. I'm still getting paid, so I'm going home. So he went home, and they needed an opponent. And Johan Duhaupas needed the money. He released, I think, a tweet or something saying, you don't know, I need the money. He was meant to be fighting Takam in February, so he hadn't even started training. They gave him a pair of amateur shorts and a pair of running shoes, and he fought Povetkin. He was in Russia as a fan, basically, and he ended up fighting Povetkin, which is absolutely bizarre. And he got absolutely leveled. He got badly knocked out, got absolutely leveled, and it was an absolute farce. Got Povetkin, look, whether you believe he was on it or not, he says he wasn't. Holy shit. He looked jacked. I've never seen Povetkin looking so jacked as he did in that fight. So he was, if you ever needed that, if you had any doubt he was on something, he was fucking on something in that. He looked huge in that fight. Avanesian versus Ben, who would throw a tenner on Avanesian. Seriously, I would. I'd chuck a tenner on him. Convinced he was that he beat Josh Kelly. Didn't think he'd stop him. I thought he'd win on points, but convinced he'd beat the crap out of Josh Kelly. Literally was convinced he'd beat the crap out of Josh Kelly. Counterpunch boxing makes me smile every time. There's a lot of good channels out there, mate. You got Counterpunch, BDA, Ade, Hatman, Mark, Dell, D. Loads of good channels out there, mate. Loads of good guys out there covering it. Conlon probably not beating anyone at those two weight divisions. He's been promoted as a future world champion there, bought the hype. No, neither have I. Nor I. Conlon ain't winning a world title. You know, that's not me hating. It's just me speaking facts. He's never looked good enough to win a world title. So if he wins it, fair play. Proves me wrong. But I don't think he will. I can't see it. For now, lads and lassies, what I'm going to do, just gone over the hour and a half mark. I'm going to end it here. I have the next 2 days off because I took Tuesday off as well for the bank holiday. Because I knew I'd need some time off after the weekend because I've done a lot over this weekend. Done a lot. So for now, I'm going to end this stream here. Hope y'all enjoyed it. What we say there? Hope y'all enjoyed it. Yeah, it's not hating on Conlon. Well, just he isn't great. Yeah, that's literally. You see, Dell tweeted that. I remember he tweeted this yesterday that a paid analyst once said Tennyson beats Davis, and we who say that's ridiculous are labeled haters. It's not hate. It's just pointing out the obvious. But everything nowadays, if you disagree with anyone, it's, oh, you're hating. It's like, it's not. It's far from it. A big up to Nick and Graham. Appreciate you boys locking in. Appreciate all the lads locking in. I hope you have a great Sunday and a happy bank holiday. Have a great week. When a week starts with a bank holiday, you know it's going to be a good week. Man, I had a great weekend. I'm so happy these days. It's crazy. Got a lot of good things happening outside YouTube as well. But big up to all the lads. G-Man, you're smart with boxing. Brilliant channel. Appreciate that, mate. Lads and lassies. And of course, Joe, big up to you every time. I hope you have a great day and a great weekend as well, my man. All the best for you and your family. Big up to you. As always, lads and lassies, I'll talk to you. Peace.